Perhaps after Christmas and the first day of planting, there's no single day that the grower anticipates more than the day that the crop begins to emerge out of the field. And for good reason. It's the beginning of a new start for us for this growing season. But as Mike Zwingman talked about this week in his Reach Out article, there are a lot of things that need to be put into consideration as we start this cropping season off. And a lot of it starts with the seed. Growing degree days and moisture are critically important for success this growing season, but it doesn't stop there. As we look at the mechanical aspects of our planter, one of the things we really need to focus on is the seeding depth that we're achieving out there, because seeding depth sets us up to have good even emergence and maximize our yield potential for the season. I'm Keith Byerly, Precision Ag Manager at Central Valley Ag, and this is your Precision Focus that corresponds with my article on the CVA blog site. So, when we talk about this, why it's so critically important that we get seeding depth correct comes into play because research from the 70s has shown us that we give up yield potential, possibly as much as 5 bushels for every day that our crop comes up after the average emergence date. Research from 2002 says it could be even worse. We may be giving up 2 to 2.5 bushel per plant when we come up one day after its nearest neighbors. So, as we look at the important emergence, that's why it matters so much. It has a very direct effect on our yield at the end of the season. So, what I want you to think about before we start talking about the mechanical aspect of that planter is the fact that we have to use agronomics first. We have to think about planting in the right conditions. Poor emergence is very detrimental to yield, but planting in bad conditions is even worse. We give up more yield loss planting in the wrong conditions than we do waiting 2 or even 3 weeks to get the consistency of our seed bed and the consistency of emergence that we're looking for. So, when we talk about the mechanical aspects that affect our planting, there's really 2 pieces that I want to focus on. Piece number 1 is the residue managers on that planter. We want to make sure that we're doing a good job managing that residue and moving it out of the way so we're not affecting ride quality. Too much pressure on those residue managers leads to the row unit bounce. Too little pressure leads to pinning of that seed trench and emergence issues there. So we have to get that right. Whether that means getting out multiple times a day and adjusting it, or having a system like Clean Sweep on your planter to do it remotely, it's critically important. The other side that's important though is the actual physical control on downforce. We've gone from springs to airbags and now hydraulics on downforce, and I want you to take a look at that on your operation and how critically important it is. I think that every field has a yield advantage to having downforce in play on it. Whether it's small or big is determined a lot by your farming practices and the soil that you have, but it's still there. Working with your agronomist, working with your ACS professional on that is critically important for success. So that's my take home for you today. As you're out there in the planter, watching what's happening with your ride quality and row unit bounce and transitioning into that day of emergence, think about those things and start making plans now to make sure that next year is successful. Because at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we take those advantages that we've seen in the last 20 years from genetics improving in that bag of seed and make sure that we apply the right agronomics to it so that we achieve those successes, because not all of our yield advances have come just from there. And those agronomic advantages start with the planter.